Okay, fine. We talked about the Red Wings in the last video, and it was a pretty negative one. We talked about the game against the Senators, the comeback, the tie game, the blown lead, the overtime, the sloppiness, etc. It was an interesting game. But because the Detroit Red Wings are in Sweden doing the entire Global Series tour right now, why not use this as an opportunity to talk about one of the most important Swedish people that happen to be in the Red Wings system today? No, he is not a hockey player on the Red Wings. He's not even a hockey player on the Grand Rapids Griffins. Today we are talking about the prospect acquired by Detroit in the Filip Hronek trade, by proxy because they drafted him with the first-round pick from Vancouver in that trade. Let's talk today about Swedish defenseman Axel Sandin Pellikka and some of the crazy stats that make him stand out as a top prospect. Now, we have made a few videos over the past few, past few weeks, spanning back to the draft time this year, just talking about ASP, talking about Sandin Pellikka and the skill set he has. Long story short, he is a right-handed defenseman, 5'11", 181, 18 years old, from Sweden. And he was taken in the 17th overall spot in the draft. He was a guy who was supposed to go a lot earlier, but he slipped all the way to number 17, most likely because he is a small, offensively minded defenseman. We talked all about the numbers. We talked about how he was a pretty good point producer. If you wanted the refresher here, ASP in his 2022-2023 had 5 points in 22 SHL games played. 2 goals, 3 assists. Now, the fact that he was already getting games played in the SHL as a 17-year-old was impressive in and of itself. But when you take a look at how he's performed so far at 18 years old, oh boy, things get even crazier. The thing with ASP that we talked about last time in the video comparing him to, who was it, Erik Carlsson? Something like that. It was some crazy comparison that actually did make sense in the context of the video we talked about. But in that video, we discussed the practice footage. We talked about how ASP was training with, I believe it was Nick Kronwall. So there you go. Red Wings legends meeting the Red Wings future. That's really poetic when you think about it. But that was near the beginning of the season. We were talking about the points. We were talking about the skills. We were talking about all the good things. But as the year has gone on, in 2023-2024, playing for Skellefteå AIK, Axel Sandin Pellikka has been doing things that we have not seen out of any Swedish defenseman at this age in years. Take a look at the point production so far. In 17 Skellefteå AIK games, Axel Sandin Pellikka has 7 goals and 3 assists for 10 total points. The guy has gone out there and scored a ton this season. Last year, he had 5 points in 22 games. This year, he's doubled that in 5 fewer games, and his goal production at 7 is super noteworthy too. Here's why. Tweet from Ice Hockey Gifts goes out there and explains that ASP had a goal and 2 assists yesterday. He's now up to 7 goals on the season. Only 2 U19 defensemen have ever scored more than 7 goals in an SHL season, and the last time it happened was Ulf Samuelsson in 1982-1983. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, if you go over to U19 defensemen in the SHL's history books, there are only 3 seasons in total where a player under the age of 19 as a D-man had more than 7 goals. Ulf Samuelsson in 82-83, and then you had Thomas Johnson, who did this twice in the 70s. Other than that, the other guys that ASP is tied for in terms of getting 7 goals in their 18-year-old SHL year or below, it's Rasmus Dahlin, Victor Hedman, and Tim Eriksson. Now, all Tim Eriksson joking aside, because that guy certainly was a superstar at the NHL level. Just kidding, he was more so of a tweener AHL, NHL guy. But the other 2, whom Axel Sandin Pellikka is tied with, are 2 of the best Swedish defensemen we have seen in this generation's worth of play. Victor Hedman and Rasmus Dahlin are studs. But of course, you could take a look at the overall production here and say, wait a minute, Axel Sandin Pellikka, sure, he is 18 years old, but he is in his draft plus 1 year. Rasmus Dahlin, when he did this season, 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 games played. That was his draft-eligible year. Same thing could be said about Victor Hedman. Hedman just had the earlier birth date, which is why his age is listed at 18 in this season. And also, if you wanted to go over just the production, I mean, Axel Sandin Pellikka scored the same amount of goals as these two did in half. Less than half the amount of games played. Now, you could look at the assists and say, wait a minute, Dahlin and Hedman have him beat out so much on assists, and that's true. But if you go over to points per game and you try to average everything out there, hey, Axel Sandin Pellikka is on pace for a 21-goal season with 9 assists on top of that. 5 assists is not really the be-all and end-all in terms of differences, but 21 goals versus 7 certainly is. Now, of course, that projection is just that. It's a projection. We'll see what happens when the World Juniors comes along and Axel Sandin Pellikka misses a few games. Knock on wood, he stays healthy the entire year, etc., etc., etc. But he's already tied with Hedman and Dahlin for defenseman goals in the SHL at this age range. What more by the end of the season? What more if he's going out there and maybe even besting out Thomas Jansson's 78-79 season of 11 goals in 34 games? All ASP has to do is continue what he's been doing, and the numbers will round themselves out. If he's able to continue even just a fraction of this goal-scoring pace that he's had in the SHL, he could cement himself as literally the best U19 defenseman, goal-scoring-wise, this league has ever seen. And that is including some of the greats, like Erik Karlsson is on this list, Dahlin, Hedman, Soderstrom, Adam Larsson. I mean, yeah, you could talk about the magnitude of order there as to who's really good and who's not, but still, ASP is doing such a fantastic job at just facilitating offense. We talked about this in the last video, but the way he moves, the way he sees the ice, the way he shoots, he is a gamer. And this is the kind of guy that if he pans out to his max potential at the NHL, there is no telling what the ceiling is here. Do you want to say 10, 15 goals per season with hopefully a bit more assists, because you probably want to see a guy also playmaking a little bit if he's that offensively flashy in the O-zone, but still, ASP has been putting the puck in the back of the net so much so that he has been one of the best SHL U19 defenders in history, and the season is only 17 games in. So, how about that for your positive Red Wings video? I thought it would be appropriate to go out there and bring this up, especially considering the Sweden thing has been a hot topic the past few days. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about Axel Sandin Pellikka and the dominance that he has exhibited so far? Dahlin, Hedman, these are the two guys that will stand out right away as being equal to ASP in this season's worth of production. But of course, there are some caveats. The Dahlin, Hedman draft year, draft plus 1 year situation changes things. It does. It's not going to be directly one-to-one. I'm not going to say that ASP is going to be a number 1 defenseman anytime soon with the Red Wings beating out Sider and being a 25-plus minute guy a night. Of course, that'd be nice, but I'm not going to say it's guaranteed. But at the same time, I mean, Dahlin and Hedman were top 2 overall picks in their respective drafts, so having a pretty comparable player in ASP so far, especially at 17th overall, that's pretty good. If you're a fan of Skellefteå AIK and you've been watching their season so far, what are your thoughts on how ASP has performed? What are your thoughts on how he's going to project into the next few, let's just say, months? How well do you think he's going to do at the World Juniors, suiting up for Team Sweden over there against guys in his own age range? And where do you think he fits in the Red Wings lineup long term? What do you think his ceiling is in Detroit? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.